So let's begin. The uppermost layer of Earth's surface is soil. So the uppermost layer, the layer that we usually see, is soil. It contains air, water and various minerals important for plants. So soil is essentially porous. What does porous mean? It means it has these tiny pores in it which give enough space for air and water to seep into it. And this in turn helps in the growth of plants. It is essential for existence of life. Now why am I saying this? Because soil is essential for growth of plants, and for everything to survive they need food. All the animals require food and their food is actually plants. So if no plants then no life, which means if no soil, no plant. If no plant, then no humans or no other animal. Basically, if no soil, no life on earth. Let's now learn about layers of soil. Now that we know what soil is, let's see the layers. Okay. So, the topmost layer is known as horizon O, that is humus. Then there's horizon A, horizon B, horizon C and D. So why is this horizon O? I think of it as origin, okay? So this is 0, this is nothing, 0. And then there is A, B, C, D. So first comes horizon O and not horizon A. Keep that in mind. Horizon O is humus. What does humus mean? Humus means decomposed matter such as plants and animal remains. So when plants and animals, when they die, they decompose on this layer, on the surface, and this decomposed matter is actually a very good fertilizer, which is known as humus. So the horizon O has a lot of decomposed matter, humus. It is dark and thin, as you can see in this picture. It's dark and it's very thin compared to all the other layers, and it's very fertile. As I mentioned, decomposed matter is very fertile. Then there is horizon A, that is topsoil. This is the first layer and this is topsoil. It has very fine particles of clay and sand. Plants grow in this layer. You can see that we see plants above the surface, but the roots, can you see these roots? They extend in the topsoil in this layer, and they get their minerals and their water and air that has seeped in from this layer, that is the topsoil. And it is also a very fertile layer because there's presence of a lot of humus in this layer as well. It is rich in humus and minerals. The third layer is horizon B, that is subsoil. So there is humus, topsoil and subsoil. What must the subsoil have? It obviously occurs below the topsoil. It contains gravel, rocks and stones larger size than topsoil. It allows water to seep through it. So as you can see, this layer does not have a lot of rocks. This layer also does not have rocks or gravel. But this layer has some rocks and some gravel. And as you keep going in downward direction, the density of rocks increases. Here's just soil, some rocks, little more rocks in the upper layer, and then there is bedrock. So concentration of rocks will increase as you go downwards. In subsoil, therefore, there are rocks and there's gravel and stones larger than the topsoil. It also allows water to seep through it. So which means this is also a porous layer. Then the last layer is horizon C, regolith. Regolith has rocks, okay, more rocks. There are no nutrients or there's no humus present here. So the plants cannot actually grow in subsoil, that is horizon B or horizon C. And uh, you can see that from here, from horizon C, lot of concentration of rocks will start, and there'll be no life present here, that is no plant or animal life present here, and it's so concentrated, so dense, that eventually water and air will not be able to pass through it. So maybe till here it's porous, but porosity will also decrease as you keep going downwards. Here there will be no porosity at all, that means no water or air will be able to seep in. Here maybe a little, very tiny amount of air and water will be able to seep in. Here water and air can seep in, and here it's very porous, and that's why life exists the most in these layers, that is humus and topsoil, that is horizon A. So I hope this is clear to you. If it's not, or if you have any questions, please mention them in the comments. So let's move on. Where does soil come from? It's natural. It must have not just always been here, right? Is it possible? Let's see how soil was formed. The process of breaking of rocks into fine soil particles is called as weathering. This weather is not the climate or the rain and the sun, not that kind of weathering. This is a different kind of weathering. It means breaking of rocks to form soil. It is a very slow process. Weathering takes hundreds and thousands of years. You'll see why. So let's begin. See, in this rock, water has seeped in, okay? And usually this happens that when there's rain, a lot of rain, water will seep inside rocks. Now you will say you can't penetrate a rock, but you can. You can, because when there's a lot of rain and rain keeps falling on the same spot again and again and again, then eventually the rock has to give up and the water will seep, the rock will break a bit, and if water gets even a tiny crack, then the water will go inside and keep making the crack bigger. So this is what happens in this case. And then when it gets very cold, the water freezes. The water inside the rock freezes. And this is something that happened probably hundreds of years ago, when the climate on earth wasn't as hot as it is now. So then this was possible, that the water everywhere just got converted to ice. And when do you know that water, when it gets converted to ice, its volume gets increased, okay? Water expands. So initially, if you can see, if there's a little amount of water over here and it gets converted to ice will require more space, and therefore it will crack the rock a little more. So the water will freeze and expand, and then it will again contract when it's summer season or when it's a little bit sunny, not so chill. And this expansion and contraction again and again will cause the rocks to break down. This is weathering. So see, initially they were big rocks, okay? This was also probably just one rock, and then water started seeping inside and started forming cracks in this. Then eventually more and more water kept falling on this. Then this rock got converted to this rock, the smaller rocks or gravel, and eventually soil was formed, okay? So this is still not very fine. And now what will happen is, this these small tiny particles of rocks will be taken away with the help of, say, wind, or if there is a nearby river, the river will carry these small particles away and they'll crash here and there, and they'll break down even further. They'll keep breaking, and eventually they'll become so small, they'll become fine powder of soil, and then they will deposit over there. So now you know that it's a very slow process. Okay. So I hope you remember weathering. Okay. The process of breaking of rocks into fine soil particles is called weathering. So as I mentioned that the rocks were taken away by the river or by wind. So if rocks can be taken away, even soil can be taken away, right? Like this, soil is very fine powder and it can certainly be taken away, and this is known as soil erosion. The removal of fertile top layer of soil by the action of wind and water is known as soil erosion. So it is the removal uh, by natural things or by man, but it is the removal of the fertile top layer, and this is known as soil erosion. Let's see some agents of soil erosion. First agent is water. So see here, in this case there are these rocks, okay, and can you see, notice this, the rock has this pattern, okay. This pattern is not naturally formed. It can be formed when probably the water level in this region was very high and the water kept flowing, and because the water kept flowing, it kept crashing to the borders, to the river banks here, and then it eventually broke down the rock and gave the rock this shape. Okay, so water has the capacity to take rocks away, right? So it can erode soil as well. So water is one of the main reasons for soil erosion. Second agent is wind. Wind. If there is nothing on this soil, it will be very easy to carry the soil because essentially soil is light, it's not very heavy. So wind can carry soil. There's also human activities, of course, because we want to because we have an increase in population, we require a lot of things. We require roads, we require houses to stay in, and that's why also removal of the topsoil takes place. So human activities are also an agent of soil erosion. Now let's see how we can conserve soil. Soil conservation. The process of protecting soil against erosion is soil conservation. How can we do this? Methods of conservation of soil. First is avoid deforestation. We know that weathering takes a long time and soil takes a long time to form. So we have to conserve soil. Now what we can do is avoid deforestation. Deforestation means cutting off a lot of trees for human purposes. Trees, when they are intact and when they are in soil, they will not let the soil get eroded. Therefore, we should not deforest a lot. Keep overgrazing of cattle in check. What happens is when the farmers or anyone that has cattle leaves their cattle for grazing, the cows usually overgraze. Did you know that cows actually don't chew or bite their food when they take it in? What they do is they take a lot of food, they directly gulp it, and the food directly goes into their stomach. And then when the cows sit and relax, they sit and then they start chewing their food. So it's so cows have to eat up a lot of food, and then the food will come up when they feel that they have time to chew the food. So because of this reason, the cows can take in soil along with these with the grass that they are eating or any kind of fodder that they are eating or these plants they are eating. So they have to keep overgrazing in check, because once the cow starts eating, keep eating, keep eating, keep eating, and it will not keep in mind that the cow is eating our soil, which is very essential for us. So we have to keep overgrazing in check. The third thing is farmers should grow cover crops. So see, in this case, uh, the brown thing, these are the crops that we require. Okay, these are the crops, and this area, if it did not have these tiny plants, then this soil would have been exposed. This soil would have been exposed to wind or any other agent or cattle or water, and this soil would have gotten eroded. So to prevent that, they have planted these small crops known as cover crops, and because of these cover crops, this soil present here where no crop is being grown, this soil here will get conserved. So this is another great idea, cover crops. Embankments along rivers to so if there are no embankments over here, the river will go on expanding, and with its expansion it will take away the soil that is present on the river banks. If there is no embankment, okay, this is called embankment, okay, because of which the water is not going uh, away from the area designated for the river. So the water is not going in this region, it's just staying here. If it would have gone here, it would have taken the soil present here with itself too. So we have to avoid that, right? And that's why embankments are very important on river banks. Bunds along the boundary of fields during rains. During rains, there's a high chance that the water will flow away. This water will flow away and take the top fertile soil. This will be, first of all, it will be the farmer will be at a disadvantage if the fertile soil goes away. So what these farmers do is they put these bunds. These bunds will not allow the water to flow from this region to this region, or to just flow basically. So these bunds will protect soil from getting eroded. So this is another very good technique. I hope you all understood. Let's see the methods of conservation again. Avoid deforestation. Keep overgrazing of cattle in check. Farmers should grow cover crops. Embankments along rivers. Bunds along the boundary of fields during rains. So I hope this chapter